Welcome to Profits of Payjack, the podcast where we talk about business strategies and financial insights for the green industry. And today I've got an amazing guest for you. It's Lee Withers. He is with Kress Commercial, and he is the National Robotics Field Manager for Kress. And I had the opportunity to meet him in person when I went down to Charlotte. Kress had us come down, and we got a sneak peek at a lot of their current uh, tools and toys. I like to call them toys because they're pretty cool. But just to get a really hands-on feel and to see these things in action, it's amazing. So we're going to be talking about Kress. Wait, hang on. Like, we got to set the mood here. I forgot. Let's just set this off right.
Oh,
Boom.
nice.
Before we get too far, I'm just going to say I'm a true believer in Kress now. So, and that's in part due to you, Lee. And I appreciate your knowledge. So I would love if you could share a little bit about yourself and tell people who you are and just what you do at Kress.
Man, so we've budgeted 3 hours and 57 minutes, right? So yep, this is awesome. So no, hey, first off, John, thanks for having me. I had a blast of a time at our content house. Just being around you and others. What an amazing time that was, because we work in the greatest industry in the world, right? Period, exclamation mark, whatever else it is. Right. And you said toys, 100%. I was talking to a guy earlier this morning, and they were talking about having to work. Lee, I noticed you were responding to an email trying to help the West Coast out last night at 12:30. And I said, it's not work. It's like, man, I was up having a good time. This is fun. When it becomes work, I'll find something else to do. But so far, maybe I'll have to get a real job one day. This is amazing, right? And I get to work with great people in a great company with cutting edge technology that I've never been able to before. But that being said, I started in this industry at about age 13, 14, and have been mowing grass ever since. My grandfather was a World War II double amputee, and he had to find a way to connect and stay busy, right? And stay active in the community. So he started propagating plants early in his life, and or early in my life. And so I grew up with him in the yard, cutting grass and making cuttings on azaleas and rhododendrons and doing different things, right? So a lot of fun. And so this is all I've ever known. But what I've been able to do was very fortunate that I live around Charlotte, North Carolina, and it is a hub for outdoor power equipment manufacturers. So I've spent about 7 years early in my life after I had my landscape company, after I was horticulturalist for our local county, working in Toro distribution. Great time, great people, great companies, and wouldn't trade that for anything. Having a lot of independent dealer experience. And from there, Husqvarna is based here in Charlotte. So I spent about 11 wonderful years with them, got to meet a lot of great people. And a lot of those people, fast forward a few years, work at Kress. And it is amazing, amazing company to be a part of, and an amazing part of in the industry where we're moving forward to, answering a ton of really, really cool things for landscapers. And that's saving time, saving labor, reallocation of labor, putting money in your pocket to run our equipment. And so those are the things that I get to do every single day. If you said, Lee, what does your title mean as National Robotics Field Manager? I am in charge of, and I get to run an amazing crew and work with people every day to train independent dealers on how to sell our products, how to install our products. We also work in special projects. So those special projects could be converting a golf course, which is 18 to 25 of our robotic machines and our mega mowers to convert a course over. It could be a sports complex, or it could, quite frankly, be a housing development of 2,000 homes that says, I want to put all robotics in here. And that landscaper, instead of pulling up in his F350 or 450, pulling a 27-foot trailer, he pulls up in a Ford Ranger with a push mower and electric battery powered Kress blower, trimmer, edger, and a couple of pallets of pansies and some bag mulch to do some enhancements on a property. Much more efficient. Instead of having 3-man crew, they've got a 1-man crew because robotics are out mowing all day long. So those are the great things I get to do every single day. And I get to meet great people like you that get to help tell my story and be able to make this industry even stronger.
Yeah, thank you for all that. I'm not kidding you. Like when I say toys, like I have been in this industry for 25 plus years now. I haven't got excited about the equipment in a very, very long time. And we a lot of times we think about like, oh yeah, it's just this. It's another version of a trimmer. It's another version of a blower. It's another version of a mower. But when I finally got it, I was able to pick your brain and find out exactly what the RTK series, these are the robotic mowers that are just so cool. They're not, they're definitely lawn maintainers. They're the groomsmen, of your lawn. They're not just sitting there like they're not knocking down tall grass. They're there to make sure that lawn stays perfectly groomed, and you won't even hear it. Because what got me so excited, and this is why it was so impressive to me, when we were there, I remember I said, okay, I'll use the trimmer and I'm going to go ahead and, do my thing. There was an RTK unit right next to me. I didn't even hear it. I looked at it and I'm like, I heard a little like whisper. And I looked down and I'm like, oh, it's right there. Like, and it's operating and it's working. So it was so funny. Like I kind of like got out of its way so it could kind of clear that path. And then I went to work with the spin trimmer. And to tell you the truth, that spin trimmer surprised me so much, not because of, it's an electric, battery powered piece of equipment. But the thing was, you could still feather the throttle. So it's not like I had to have it all the way goosed, like full throttle on it. I could kind of, it's not an off and on switch. I literally could use it like a real throttle. And I could, if I had something thicker, I could go full throttle. If I needed to just, hey, I'm just going to cruise, I was running at about half throttle.
Right.
And some guys are like, oh, you're not supposed to do that way. I'm like, that's how I run it. I know you're not supposed to do that with a 2-stroke motor either, but that's kind of how I do it. So we don't tear things up. And it's like, wow, it still has that feel, but there's no noise and everything was just, it was so awesome being able to work. I'm doing the trimming and the RTK unit is out there, going about his business, and it's not like a Roomba. Tell us more about like that, because I know that there's a whole bunch of awesome things that the RTKs have in them. Those units actually stripe. They're not
Yeah.
like a Roomba.
Right. So a couple of things you talk about. First off, I'll start with the trimmer conversation. I'll quickly go into robots, but all battery powered equipment has full torque at the smallest throttle pull. So even at a quarter throttle, you've got the full torque of that engine because it's fully engaged. Right? There's not a torque curve with robotics or with electric or battery, right? When you hit the trigger, it's full torque, whether it's 500 RPMs or 5,000 RPMs. Right? So it's full power. It's all you're doing is giving it quicker speed, more revolutions to turn. That's what your throttle is doing at that point. So yeah, you can run it at any level on the throttle. It's just depending on how much power that you need or speed that you need to do the work that you want. So you may mention that it's safer, or if you're throwing objects or throwing up, edging around a car, you'd want to go at a slower speed, but you've still got full torque. So
Mhm.
that's a really cool thing about battery. Robotics, the days of burying a wire are done. And if you're still embracing putting a wire in the ground and having a mower bounce around the perimeter edge and slowly be able to get your work done over a 24-hour day, then that's great, right? You can still go drive your Chevrolet Chevette, probably a great car that I had in the 1980s, right? But there's Teslas out there that'll run circles around that car now. So and I would say that's what Kress is. right? We can stripe a yard. It's beautiful. I'm looking out at mine right now. My neighbors call it Little Augusta because I do annual rye at about October, November, and it is on point right now. My Bermuda will be kicking in here in another 30, 45 days strong. I'll start bringing my cut of height down, but I have some beautiful checkerboard patterns in my yard right now. It's strong and on point. And so, yes, pinpoint precision, 2 centimeters, no infrastructure on site as it relates to a reference station that you have to put on your house. So you don't have to go have a weird conversation with a homeowner or a commercial property and say, hey, here's this great product, but I need to drill 4 holes and I need to have access to your internet and I need to do this. And there's none of that with us. All we need is an outside plug to put a base station in and plug it in so it can charge. It's that simple.
And that was another thing too, is, you brought up the boundary wires, right? That is a no-go. That was like, that blew my mind. I'm like, wow. Once I understood the infrastructure that you're creating, Kress is creating, of, basically using satellites and getting within 2 centimeters. I mean, that's just insane. It is so precise. And again, no boundary wires. That is a huge thing. You don't have to dig wires. You don't have to, if you change the landscape, I mean, it's all about taking the pilot off the top of the machine and then you just revamp it. It's
Right.
like you just drop it in that little, the measuring tool, or not the measuring tool, but it's like
Mapping
a
card.
measuring tool. Yeah,
Yeah,
the cart,
mapping card. Yep.
the mapping cart. And that thing is so innovative because, I not to bore people with any details, but the cool thing is like, correct me if I'm wrong, is it the right wheel on the mapping tool that on the mapping cart that is reflects the right wheel on the mower?
Correct. By default, the right wheel on the mapping cart is the right wheel of the mower.
So
As it relates to the true boundary of the machine, it's actually now even smarter than when you were here a couple of weeks ago. It it detects the inside of a zone versus the outside of a zone when you map it. So even if you were to go the wrong direction, depending on where the zone, the inside of the zone, it's going to default to the outside of the mapping cart now. It's ridiculous. We just learned that
that's
last
so
week.
cool. That's so
So
cool.
the technology and the logic behind our products are just super amazing and super easy. It's like 10 steps and you're
Mhm.
mowing grass. It is that simple. And the only infrastructure, again, is a little base station and a magnetic strip. And that magnetic strip, all it does is help center the mower to have precision of less than 2 centimeters, or it takes the RTK of 2 centimeters or less to 0 centimeters. So it docks precisely every single time to charge.
Yeah.
That's all that magnetic strip does is center it up on the base station.
Yeah, so what Lee's talking about, it's not a visual right now, but here's the thing. Like, it's kind of like the doghouse, right? This is where the RTK mower goes back to recharge. And it's a really slick system because, you know, he's talking about this magnetic strip that just extends into that zone that you map out. And when it feels like, hey, you know what, I need some energy, it just pulls right in. And I mean, the precision of how the connectors just make contact, like you showed us like 5, 6, 7 different times, and every single time it was just, dead nuts on it. It was right on. And it's like, that's pretty cool. And you did it with 2 different machines. When we were out there, you did it with 2 different mowers, and it's like, wow, that one was from a different area. And
Yeah, and with
you
the
just brought it in.
positive piece, right? We even had a little issue, right? I love having
Oh
issues
yeah.
when we're around people, especially dealers, to show them best practices. And it was nothing against us; it was a human error, right? We
Right.
had 3 machines on one app, and our ABDM forgot to change the name, so they were all 3 the same name.
Yep.
Best practices. We had landscapers right there learning this in front of us and saying, "Oh, we would have never thought about that if we'd have had 5 demo machines, or if we'd have had 5 different customers. We need to make sure that before we finish that we change the name from Mr. Johns to Mr. Smith to Mr. this, and that everybody's inside the app is different. So we can manage as many customers' yards as we needed, but you better change the name. If not, you're going to get a little confused.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
just to hit back on that boundary line too, with no wires, right? I was really impressed with how you could program the mower like to go across a sidewalk, and it wouldn't run at that time. It would just be in like transport. And then you could like cut like a certain area of your yard one height, and then it would know to like traverse like a driveway or like some path through a landscaping, and then it would go to a next area, and maybe say you have a different variety of grass, say you're in like a transition zone, or you just want different heights.
right,
You could have it set, and it would automatically drop down. It would go to that area and cut that whole area.
right.
So that's a
That's the
huge
interesting
change.
piece where, John, we're doing so much with golf right now, golf courses. And you think about when you go play a round of golf, your tee box is a different height than the grass around the tee box. It's a different height than the walkway up to the fairway, than the fairway, than the first cut of rough or semi rough to the rough, and then even the surround around the green. So a Kress robotic machine maintainer. Great. I love that you caught that word because
Yeah.
we are not grass mowers. I think I led into that in my presentation was that the worst thing in the world that ever happened were these were called lawnmowers because they're not a mower. They don't cut once a week. They don't make tall grass short. They keep short grass maintained meticulously, right? So
Mhm.
we're cutting an eighth to a 16th of a leaf blade off all the time, less water, less irrigation, maintenance, less fertilization, all of those above. But in a golf course situation, we can cut anything right now but the actual green. And you can cut the green if you wanted, but we're just only going to get down to 0.39 of an inch, and a lot of places are going to cut their greens much, much shorter than that. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, unless you guys came out with a real mower, that would be the only solution that I could see where, yeah, because it has rotary blades, it has, the flail blade on it. But yeah, I mean, it was really impressive because I have video I didn't have the before because you guys set them out the night before to mow the areas that you were taking care of. But like just the way it kept maintaining everything, and there were some areas where it was like a little higher, and then the RTK would get to it, and it's like, wow, that looks great. Like, it's kind of funny how like it's such compared to like the weight and everything of it, it's not compacting the soil, it's not running the same ruts or anything like that. And again, like going back to the striping, it's a true stripe, and it is like laser lines. We're talking like I've been doing this for a very long time, and I would have a hard time keeping a super straight line like this thing does, even when there was little contours in the ground. And I was like, wow,
yeah,
that's pretty
it's
smart.
constantly measuring your left wheel rotation and right wheel rotation and your antenna on top. So I mean, it is pinpoint precision, less than 2 centimeters. And, you may see the mower drift left or right a little bit based on a hole or some variance to it, but 100%, it is when you go and look, and I'm looking at my yard right now, it's on point. It looks
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So sometime in the months to come, we tease with stuff, right? But sometimes in the months to come, I probably could put profits with Payjack out here in my yard. Drop that logo into my map, and it will cut it.
yeah.
That is going to be awesome. Think
And
about high school sports fields. Think about the little league field as a parent. If I got a landscape company and maybe I'm doing some stuff, if I could go deploy a Kress machine to cut whatever little league or the
sure.
team name in it or champions, or think about the different things you could do with that. High school football on a Friday night to mow in the logo and the school name into the end zones. Man, the sky's the limit with that right there. I'm pretty excited with that's coming pretty soon.
And I remember you teasing that, and I was like, I don't know if I should talk about it because I know you guys said it's in the future, but and I mean, game day, it could be a huge thing. Or again, if you're a business and you say, hey, you know what, let's have fun with it. let's make our yard, let's put our logo in the yard so when people Google map us, we could like hopefully the
Right.
satellite imagery is showing and it's like, oh, hey, because the mowers are maintainers, it would know and it would keep that in your lawn for the entire season. You'd be like, hey, here's this is where Kress is located, or profits from paycheck.
Cut it a quarter inch less. Yeah, we've put Kress in the corporate office in the grass. We've done a jack o' lantern at Halloween. We did a Christmas tree. We've done a lot of different things. So the sky's the limit. As it relates to precision. You just want to make sure you got a big enough yard to
Sure.
just see the contours. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna start messing with it. I'm on the beta app, so I've got some access to it. So I'm gonna do some stuff in the yard, especially as I start to phase my rye out, and I don't have to worry about damaging anything if I'm trying to cut it a shorter length. So I'm gonna start messing with it here over the next couple of weeks and having fun. So man,
Very cool.
again, when I get a real job, I'm gonna tell you. But right now, I mean, I'm 47 years old.
Yeah.
I I've
That's the
yet to
same
have a
age.
real job. Yeah, I've yet to have a real job.
Yeah.
I'll have to say that.
I'll tell you, Lee, it's we're talking and we're like, again, we're enjoying all the novelty things of what this equipment can do for us, but at the same time, I know there's a lot of, landscapers that I've spoken to, and they're just kind of like, oh man, I don't know about this stuff. And I'm like, listen, I've had hands on this. I'm playing with it now. This is legit. And if, you're looking at, taking care of multiple properties, like let's just say it's in a neighborhood, you could have, you have different levels of RTK mowers that cover different sizes. And the thing is, what I want people to start like really starting to recognize is, let's just say you get one of the bigger units that is able to take care of actual acreage, and you don't necessarily need to invest in like 10 machines. You could literally have maybe 2 or 3 machines and have multiple, like more of the charging bases. That way it doesn't have to go all the way from, we're going to be in point D or C, wherever, however far away that is, and then it's got to make it all the way back to the charging station just to finish up. It's amazing how it's like almost like you could put the pieces together. But the other thing, I think the most thrilling thing for me is when I start thinking of, let that maintainer run all week, and then I come back and I have a guy in a crew, like he could be in a Chevette, or he's in an S10 or a Ranger or a smaller vehicle, and maybe
A Prius,
a
right?
Prius,
Anything.
right?
Yeah.
Anything, and it has the trimmer in it. It has a blower just to maintain sidewalks that may, like when you're trimming, because you're going to be throwing stuff wherever, and say you're doing your edging on the sidewalks, driveways, any hard surfaces, you're going and doing that touch up work and the detail work, and then blowing off. That's, just making sure everything looks organized. And again, like you said earlier in the show, you can bring like a flat of annuals and bring enhancement work into it. So it's like, yeah, we're still charging for mowing, we're still charging for the maintenance, but the actual amount of labor that is necessary to maintain that lawn is not going to be anywhere near what it is now. And you could spend your time in a more profitable way by going ahead and say, okay, I'm not spending a whole, I'm not spending 45 minutes mowing the lawn. The RTK's got that. I'm going to walk around. It's going to take me 5-10 minutes to go ahead and trim up and blow things off. And then I'm going to spend that other time working on enhancements and then basically upselling my services.
Yeah, it's really neat. I just left a landscaper that we do this done a lot of testing with us, but he's a firm believer. He's down in Myrtle Beach. Great guy, and he runs 3 Prius crews, right? And he's sold it as I think the company's name's Quiet Lawn or something like that.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
you probably know those
Mhm.
guys, and so phenomenal business model. But um, what they do and how they do it and how they pull up 100%. So he evaluates each property or development. Do I need to put one machine on it, or can I put one machine on 10 houses?
Right.
Right. And so homeowner situations a little easier if you've got an HOA that you're dealing with to deploy a vast one bigger machine to cover all of them versus individual contracts, right? A little different, but he knows how long it takes to get that return on investment back for a machine. Um, Very, very simple, very easy. There's lots of business models out there that are doing that, but it's not that we're trying to say we're going to fire people, right? We're not trying to
No.
replace people. What we're trying to do is reallocate labor. Labor is the number one issue right now. If you ask landscapers, what is holding you back from growing, or what is holding you back from going to your kid's game on Thursday night, right? What is holding you back from going fishing on Saturday morning, right? And they can say, well, it rained 2 days this week or whatever else. The reality is they can't find people to help cover the gap. So they're having to work in their business instead of on their business. And so
Exactly.
if they can sit there and work on their business right now, just like I would be doing, having a crest, and I know that no one can see me pointing out the window here, but I'm pointing at, by the way, this is King Kyle in my yard. So again, I've been robotic mowing since 2007, and we've had Kyle Jr., Grandpa, Kyle the second, Kyle the third, you name it. This is King Kyle because he is the ultimate, most coolest mower I've ever had that's maintaining this yard out here, right? And but this is what they could be doing, and I could be looking at my app and I could say, oh, it's going to rain. Maybe I should go park all those machines. Or I can say, hey, my crew is going to go do some spraying. I should park them all for today and give them an 8 hour rest, and then I'll let them start again after that safe period because we've gone in and sprayed liquid retardant or fertilizer, or I had to do some edging with Roundup or something like that, some type of non-selective herbicide around the edge that I don't want a wheel to drag in and then drag that non-selective back into my grass. Touch of a button, I can send that mower home and wait for the 2 or 3 or 4 hour safe period, and then I can turn it back on and let it go again. I don't have to send a crew back out, right?
Exactly.
I don't have to say, hold on, let's let the spray crew go by and go do all this stuff, and then we'll send the mowing crew. My mowing crew can be right here on my app and be done with it, right? Those are the things that we got to think about as we move forward, and especially with battery and robotics. You mentioned earlier you talking about people being scared. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to tell you right now, the things that you don't think about where it saves you money and saves you time and therefore money robotically mowing. How much time do you spend cleaning up the curb with the grass because you had to cut off 4 inches because you didn't get there last week because of the rain? And oh, by the way, the robotic mower would have mowed it 3 times in a week instead of barely a half because that's all you could have gotten done. All that grass, wet grass sitting out in the road, you got to let it dry. Cars drive over it. What about the driveway when you push grass into the driveway and then you take that tire of your zero turn, drive and turn in the driveway? I remember cutting grass as a landscaper, and a customer would come out and say, man, my yard looks beautiful, but can you help me get those tire marks out of my driveway? And you did this amazing work, but because you were so worried about the grass and not tearing the grass up, you went up to the driveway and you turned around. Those wheel turns are non-existent with us. Doesn't happen anymore. When you go up and have to grind the grass into the concrete, doesn't happen anymore.
Right.
All of that is done, right? And so literally you show up, and instead of having all this grass, you've got a little bit of grass clippings about 2 inches away from the edge that you barely cut off because all of them are being cut 3 or 4 times a week from your Kress mission mower. And the cleanup takes you a tenth of the time that it ever would have before. And the complaints go down because you're not damaging driveways or pavers. You're not, your customers or your employees are so much more safe. They're not in the road blowing grass out of the road. All of these things that happen that you're like, wow, like that used to take me 3 hours to go cut and it took me 43 minutes. That's crazy. And so
Yep.
these are the things you got to start thinking about as you're transitioning into robotic mowing, as you're transitioning into running battery versus petrol.
Hmm. And the amazing part that I find is, again, like you said, we're not trying to replace people. What we're trying to do is take away that mindless work. Like sometimes it's great to get on a mower and just zone out, right? But like it's 95 degrees out and it's really hot and everything's going wrong. You're behind schedule because people are calling off or whatever. Instead of overworking your crew, it's like, look, let's just get you reserve them for the specialty type work, or for that extra touch that a lot of landscapes need. Because again, I see a great model, not only like just for residential, but like especially like with townhome HOAs and things like that, where you have an entire, you'll have like huge parks of homes, and they may have postage stamp size lawns where they're kind of small, but then a couple RTK units could just be bouncing all over the place, just getting them, maintaining them. And then if there's a field that needs to be taken, like a common area, that this is what a lot of the ones that are around by me are like. They'll have very small yards, but then they'll have common areas, and they'll be, all the houses will be facing into that field. So there'll be like a pool house and then just decorative things. Instead of having to spend all your time worrying about the grass, your guys could then be picking weeds out of the landscaping, or trimming bushes. It's all about, and those things are usually more profitable anyway.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you asked your average landscaper, what do they charge per man hour to be on property to cut grass versus irrigation repair versus hardscape maintenance or installation versus annual planting and mulching and trimming? That is a much more profitable business model, and being able to have billable hours doing those tasks versus just mindlessly mowing grass.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, just it makes a lot of sense, especially as companies start to scale. It's like, hang on to your good people. We're not going to replace them. The robotics give you an advantage over other companies, and I have a feeling that one, because I spoke with one guy he's using a different model. It's still wired.
Mhm.
He's using it, and he's finding that it works for him for right now. He's probably going to be giving you guys a call. He's probably going to go, I told him, I said, go to Kress.com and get the 10-day trial, because that's something we'll talk about too. But at the same time, he's utilizing these little mowers, and he's making, he just has a guy that drops one off, because it's basically, because those are still the wired units. These are your competitors, but he just drives up, drops it off, picks it up 2 days later, and he's just in the rotation of like picking up units, dropping them off, put them in there, and he's got a whole contract with these other with the homeowners.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, we're mowing your lawn, but we're not there. And then when they are there, because of the contract he put together, it's like, oh, we're gonna limb up this tree. We're gonna go ahead and put these perennials in for you. Oh, we're gonna do all these other enhancements, and like even though it just frees up any labor that you have to do those more profitable things. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's worth repeating, because when in this industry, there are times when margins, just a percentage or two, can mean the difference between being successful and then being back on your heels. And it's crazy how wild it could swing just with a few percentage points.
Yeah, your operating cost is dramatically reduced overall when people factor in, again, the big truck, the big trailer, three people, gas, oil, maintenance, right? And if you truly know what it costs you to show up at your first job site each day, right? Because you've got to know that what the one job is versus 20 jobs in one day. And so, in order to get your costs down in a traditional business model, you better be turning and burning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you need each stop to help reduce the first cost in order to be profitable on that first visit. you've got to have 10, 15, 20 other visits that day that helps reduce that 30 or 45 or an hour worth of time when they clock in to the first, when they show up and unload the trailer the first time. How do you pay for that gap of all the
Mhm.
infrastructure to get it to that point? And if I can reduce that piece and not have to worry about checking oil, checking the gas level, putting new blades on a machine, right? Those are things that no one thinks about. It's just kind of like into the operating budget. It should be into the cost of that first cut.
Mhm.
And if I can reduce that cost because I can divide it out by 15 or 20, then that's what you have to do. It's a grind. So if I can reduce that grind and just make it a great experience each day and know that when guy shows up at the shop and he's out the door in 5 minutes and not 45 minutes, that becomes, I mean, that's the realized piece that we really have to educate people on is
Mhm.
what if I can get your guy to the job site 30 minutes quicker?
Yeah.
That's a
Because
big one.
we talk about that a lot on the show too, where we talk about unbillable time and how do you recover that. And it's like people get shocked. I say in a typical 8-hour day, there is generally 25% inefficiencies, and that's actually being on
It's the low end.
that's the low end. So if on it works out perfectly. If you look at an 8-hour day and you take 25% of it off, that means you're only getting 6 hours of production done. And that's where you need to make your money. You need when you're in production. So how do you pay for those extra 2 hours? You know, there's ways to price it out and everything, so that everybody is chipping in to pay off for that unbillable time. But the other big one is efficiency. It's making sure that, like you said, getting to the job first, getting out the door. It's like, hey, we come into the shop, we make sure we have all our equipment, the routes are set. Okay, great, let's go. And, if you're implementing robotics, especially if those stay on site, well, guess what? The maintainers, the RTK mission mowers are out there maintaining that. You're not having to go out and go, I'm going to have to sharpen the blades. I'm going to have to check the oil. That is something that you don't even have to worry about anymore.
Yeah.
There's no fill.
Yeah, think about handheld, right? I mean,
Oh,
robotic,
yeah.
and then you tie into the handheld piece. How great is it if you've got this cyber tank or cyber light sitting on the truck or in the Prius or whatever it is, and you say I need to refuel. Okay, let me take a battery off and put a battery on.
Yeah.
I don't have to mix true stroke gas. I don't have to. By the way, you know this. I don't. My crew doesn't need to go by the gas station and see the other 97 crews that are going by the same gas station and catching up with each other and get their breakfast burrito and their soft drink or coffee and gum and cigarette, whatever they're getting,
Mhm.
right? That stop's gone. Now, maybe that's something that you have to program into the to your staff, but that's 30 minutes that never is gone again, right?
Right.
And I'm refueling every time that I need to with an 8 minute recharge. Right. I
Exactly.
can't even drink a soft drink in 8 minutes during the middle of the
Oh, I
day.
I could chug them, but at the same time, like, one, you said, yeah, I know how to fix that. We discussed this in detail. Like, I give my guys like everything they want. Like, if they want sandwiches, their favorite snacky snacks, their favorite drinks, it's all there at the shops. They know that they could load up. They could be gluttons if they want. They could take the whole box of Suzy Q's if they want. I don't want them to do that, but it's like they could do it. The only thing we don't provide is cigarettes and lotto tickets, but they do that on their own time.
That's right.
Um, but when it comes down to it, yeah, you're saving time because there's not that unnecessary stop. And then again, I'm so glad you brought up the cyber tank because that's on my like checklist of awesomeness from Kress. That system, see, this right here. Besides the robotics, we love the robotics. I love the robotics right now. I know there's a lot more awesome things that come in the future too. But you with Kress's cyber tank, that whole concept is just amazing to me. And I've had conversations with folks, and they said, "Hey, I guess you're a Kress guy now," and I'm like, "Yep." And they're like, "Well, what happened?" I'm like, "I'll still use like two-stroke equipment, but if I was going to start today, I would definitely be using. I would just go ahead and invest in the Kress system for the trimmers, the blowers, because here I'll tell you the story about the blowers in just a second, but I want to really kind of kick it home with those battery packs, the Kress commercial battery packs that could go on the cyber system. That's unbelievable to me. And then guys are like, oh, well, you only get like 25 minutes runtime. And I'm like, when you're using the highest setting on the blower nonstop, I took apart with the blower. Okay, when you guys had that, you had some stations set up at the Kress house. When we went there, I kind of stayed behind and I was looking at it, and I'm like, "There's these wet hay bales. I don't know if you guys
Oh,
got
those
them
were
wet on
so
purpose.
nasty too.
They were,
At first I said, "What are we doing?" But then I was like, "Oh, this was awesome. This was a great idea."
yeah." So there were some wet hay bales out there, and I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, why not? There's some woods here. I could blow this debris into the woods. And I started with the handheld, okay, because I'm like, well, the handheld is what I just want to see how powerful it is. I'm not kidding you. Compared to one of the backpack blowers that we currently use right now, now it's not the top level. It's probably like it used to be one of the most powerful ones, but then they you know they kept outdoing themselves every
Right.
year after year. But on the highest setting with that one, I was like, I think this is as powerful or more powerful than the backpack. And it was set at 3. I think it's 3 out of 3, and you got a little turbo button too, right?
It got the turbo boost. Yep. It's powerful than about 90 to 95% of the petrol backpack blowers in the industry.
Yeah. So I was impressed with just the power of that. And I was like, okay, what I would be using it for, I'd probably at the most be using the second level. And then I put the backpack blower on. And it surprised me because I put both
Mhm.
straps on, and I go and I hit it, and it was already set at like 3. And I'm like, and it kicked me back a little. I was like, my arm went back. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, wow, that was 100% torque right off the get. And I was like, well, let's be a man and turn it up to 4. And I'm pointing at that rotten hay bale. It was blowing it apart so easily. I'm like, okay, well, this is awesome for cleanups. Let's just see if we could dial it down a little bit. And I can't, Lee, I was tearing that thing apart like on level 2 and 3 without the turbo.
Yeah,
you know?
level one, level two is about equivalent to a 50, 60 cc blower, right? And that's what, if you remember the days of 15 years ago, that 50 cc blower from many of the different competitors, petrol, that was the industry standard.
Mm-hmm.
You'd roll up at a gas station and there'd be 4 or 5 of those blowers on a crew and a 22.5 cc trimmer. You know, I think the Tim Allen of the world, tool time, probably ruined us all. Big power, big
Oh,
engines, whatever else, right?
more
But
power.
that's right. But we do all of that except we don't have to have ear protection. It's just safe and nice, and the power is unbelievable without the noise. And that's
Yeah.
the thing everybody says. Oh, it's not loud enough. What? What?
I I couldn't believe how much I appreciated that it wasn't loud, because I was like, this is crazy. I'm like jetting stuff across the lawn, and I didn't have to have ear protection in. And even on the highest setting, it was like it's pretty quiet. And even like going into like the saws, the pole saws, the chainsaws, the pruners and everything. I know that that's a some of the things were mixed with Crest Commercial, and some of it was a different line that you have. But every single piece that I grabbed was, it felt good in your hand. It felt sturdy. It's not cheap. It doesn't feel cheap or anything like that. So the guys are like, "Oh, it's a cheap piece of electric junk." It's like, no. I mean, if you just blindfolded yourself and grabbed this stuff, and like, or somebody put the backpack blower on you, because it is a little bit different. But if somebody put that on you, I don't think when you grab those controls, I'm not thinking you're going to be thinking it's a battery operated piece of equipment. It feels sturdy. It feels like what you're used to. Matter of fact, I think the grip on that backpack blower is a better design, and it feels more comfortable in your hand. It feels like it's more ergonomic somehow. I don't know
Yeah,
why, but it
I
does.
love our elbow and tube as it comes around. it really assists in not torquing my body,
Hmm.
right? I may get some rearward force as a whole just because of power, but I don't get this weird torque that I do with some competitive gas powered, petrol powered units for sure. I like that a lot. I'm
Yeah.
with you for
It,
sure.
it it's just I think the biggest thing for me is I didn't believe in it until I really tried it. And I think that's what the biggest like I guess pain point for some guys is like, well, I don't know. I'm just gonna I've used electric stuff in the past and I gotta change the batteries out every 5 minutes or whatever. It's like you gotta just try this stuff.
Yeah, I think so. You mentioned earlier we had some of our prosumer tools there, so you could run them, and they're great tools. And that's what most of our electric or battery powered competitors are running: lithium ion traditional technology tools. So we have some of those there, so people can have the reference. They're great stuff. I've got a set that I use at home, and it's way more than what I need here
Mhm.
by far. Um, but then when you put that commercial cyber system in your hand with the 8 minute recharge and hot 8 minute recharge, by the way, so you can be out in 95-degree heat and exhaust high power blower, in 20 minutes. And if you did that with lithium ion, you would not be able to fully charge that battery back until about 50 minutes. We can charge it in 8. So you only need 2 batteries per operator. So you mentioned try, and I'll lead into it. So hopefully you put it on the tee for me here.
Oh
But
yeah.
the best way in the world to get to understand what Kress is about is let us pay for it, right? We will do a 10-day free trial with our handheld. Go call your local dealer, Kress.com, get it in your hands. And the hardest thing that's going to happen is you're going to say, holy cow, not only is this stuff amazing, and not only um, does it make sense? Now I got to find a way to pay for it. Oh, hold on a minute. They've got 1.9, 2.9, 3.9% financing that will be cheaper than running my petrol equipment just in the bill that I write every month for my gas. Period. Tools, batteries, cyber tank will be cheaper than just your gas bill. Prove me wrong. We'll show you in 10 days. That's how freaking awesome this company is. Just go get it. And again, the toughest thing you're going to do is, oh man, now I got to go be seen with battery in public. God forbid. It's amazing stuff and it will save you money. And then you're going to start to say, man, that stuff's great. Now, what about robotics? Now, let's really, really talk labor saving and just monetizing robotics. If I can turn around instead of billing, and I don't know, John, what's an average landscaper bill per hour landed on the job site? $115, $125 an hour, equipment and all to mow grass?
If you got 2 minutes, yeah, like you're in the neighborhood there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if I turn around instead of billing 125, if I'm able to bill 175 or two and a quarter because I'm doing irrigation repair or landscape lighting or whatever it is, right? Really detailed work that I now can spend a little bit more time doing. Planting annuals, right? I mean, who knows what it is? Spot spraying or and weed control. I can make a heck of a lot more money doing that than just having a guy mow grass. Now
Yeah.
I can really, really add to my bottom line and accomplish a heck of a lot more during the day. Oh, by the way, I can touch properties I've never been able to touch. I can go to a hospital and I can mow during the day at a hospital because I'm under 64 decibels,
Mhm.
right? I can mow 24 hours a day. I don't have to pay shift differential pay to my guy that wouldn't show up anyway to mow grass at 2 o'clock in the morning. I can mow grass at 2 o'clock in the morning. The the possibilities are just endless. Being able to start to convert if you're willing to take the blinders off and say, okay, let's talk about this. We're that company. We're willing to help you.
Exactly. And I mean, really, the 10-day trial is just the first step. It's an amazing way just to get into it because the Crest commercial equipment, like I said, every piece that I've had in my hand so far and that I've utilized is it. There's no doubt about it. It's professional and it's well built. And the crazy thing to me too this is another thing to look at. When you go and you buy a two-stroke piece of equipment, I don't care who it is. Okay, all of the big brands, if you're using it, you buy it from your dealer and you purchase it. If you're using it commercially, you have a 1-year warranty. Kress Commercial, all of your tools have a 3-year warranty on the tool itself. The thing that blows my mind is that your batteries have a 6-year warranty on it. So you're not, it's like, just think of it from that point. You're buying you go buy a spin trimmer from your favorite color. I don't care which one it is. You're using it commercially. It's a 1-year warranty. Something goes wrong with it after 365 or 66 days, something goes wrong with it. You're paying for it out of pocket. Okay. If something goes wrong with the Kress tools in 3 years, it's covered.
Yeah.
They'll trade it out or fix it or whatever. I don't know what you guys do, but that alone tells me you're confident in the build of your stuff. Then the batteries, that's the life force of it. You're essentially buying 6 years worth of fuel. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're only going to last 6 years, but that's what you're going to warranty them for.
3,000 charge cycles or 6 years. And so what that means is it will retain 85% of its energy retention for 6 years or 3,000 charge cycles. They'll still work at year 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, but it may have less capacity, but they're still able to go and produce and store energy 100%. You mentioned it's like buying gas, right? For 6 years, buying a battery. How about this to even put it more in a true context that people can understand? How would you like to be able to lock in right now? Well, I don't know. Let's think about, a couple of years ago that gas was $1.85 or $2.15. If you could lock in today's price of gas at $2.35 or $3.15, and I could guarantee you the exact price of fuel for the next 6 years or 3,000 charge cycles or 3,000 refills, right? That's what that is. I'm going to fill my tank up 3,000 times for the same price. Can you guarantee me that gas is going to be $3.29 in 2030?
Exactly.
I would sign on the dotted line right now if I knew that I could go do that.
Right.
And you can't do it with this technology. And you make every day that you wait, that price is going up with fuel, but that battery price is staying the same. That's pretty freaking amazing.
Yeah. Not only that, but we did it was just a quick brain dump when I was at your headquarters there, and I was able to scroll some stuff on the whiteboard. You guys were like, all right, let them cook, let them go, and 13. We came into the average of like either 13 cents or 15 cents per kilowatt hour. It's like that's pretty standard across the country. It doesn't vary too much where you live. It may, there might be some discrepancies here and there, but I mean, if that's your fuel, it's like that. It does not cost a lot to charge these batteries, even the Cybertank, because, the way that the Cybertank works, and Lee, please, assist me on this one, but that's like your remote, that's going to stay on your trailer. That's like the battery charger throughout the day. And then that's what gets recharged at the end of the night. But from, I think, the capacities of what that is, it may only take 3 hours to charge that Cybertank completely, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it somewhere between 3, 4, 5 hours, just depending on what the draw is, how empty the tank is, but 3 to 4 hours in the evenings. Yep, not when no one else is there. Yep.
Right. So you plug that thing in, and then it completely charges overnight. And then throughout the day, you're just swapping batteries as needed. And for the guys that are like, yeah, but you got to swap batteries, I'm like, you still have to refuel your two strokes, don't you? And then not only that, you're not only buying your fuel, your straight fuel, but you also have to account for the two stroke. And those little two strokes, hey, you know what? If you're buying by the bottle, I know they'll be like, I buy by the gallon and blah, blah, blah. I'm okay. All right. Just calm down. I get it. We all find ways of making it work, but it's no matter what, it's still an additional cost. It almost doubles the cost of a gallon of fuel just by putting it, like if you use a 2-gallon mix, it's almost doubling your whatever you paid for that fuel, because some of those things are like $3.56 a bottle.
Mhm.
So it's like you're adding another $1.25
And
to the price of a gallon of gas.
yeah, you mentioned the unrecoupable labor cost. What about the technician? If you, I've got a guy that right that has a 500-gallon tank. He has two 500-gallon tanks on his landscape property. One is non-ethanol fuel, and one is two stroke.
Mm-hmm.
He mixes it 500 gallons at a time. And I said, "But do you really?" And he says, "What do you mean?" I said, "How do you know where that is?" And he said, "Well, I mean, we know we put a stick in it, we know." And I said, So when they come, he said, "Well, actually, what we do is when they come to fill it up, however many gallons that they put in, then we add mix to to equal that." And I said, "Oh, that's great." I said, "And you're that precise every time? The same person does it every time?" "Well, what do you mean?" And I said, "Well, depending on whether I look at it in a 5 gallon bucket, because I should be mixing it by that much quantity, I'm probably pouring a whole." I said, if it's 500 gallons and if he puts 400 in or he puts 450 gallons in, that's not a big difference in oil mix. So is he still putting in the same 5 gallons, or is he putting in 7.5 or 7? Are you running it 40 to 1 week and 60 to 1 the next week?" And he said, "I never really thought
Yeah.
about that." I said, "Have you noticed from time to time that you may have equipment that blows up more so than not certain months of the year? Do you take it into account that it could be people that are mixing?" He was like, "Oh man, now
Yeah,
another variable I got to worry about." And I said, "But even at that, the unrecoupable labor is the guy standing there waiting on the guy to fill the tank up so he can verify how many gallons were put in, do the calculation. It's an extra 30 minutes to an hour that probably not just one guy standing there, it's probably a crew. And what if the fuel guy doesn't show up in time for the crew to leave and you can't get all the crews out the door? Do you have them hold on, or do you load, or does the mechanic load up 5 gallon gas cans and take them out to the crew after the fact?" He's
right.
like, "Yeah, that's happened about once a month." And I said, "Well, how about all of these things and it's just taken care of? You fill it up overnight and it's done." So
Exactly.
yeah,
It's you just again taking the degree of taking away any kind of miscalculation is going to save you money, because I can't tell you how many times we would only mix it by 5 gallon tanks at a time. We would have like these little bottles that were made for 5 gallon tanks, and we just dump them in, mix the fuel. How many times has a guy forgot to put the oil in? He puts the he forgets to mix it right. And that was a big problem when we were using bigger containers. Like we would use like a gallon size container and then measure it out and put it in. Guys wouldn't measure it right. They'd eyeball it and they're like, I forgot the cup. Oh, okay, just that sounds good. It looks red. Okay, you know. And then you're running too rich or you're running too lean. And other times you have guys that forget, they just don't think about it. It's a hot day, they're working very hard, they get, kind of
yeah,
foggy. They go grab a fuel tank and they don't realize that, hey, you know what? The ones that have, like with us, we have everything marked to where our 2 cycle mix has a different color on the top of the red tank. It's a big blue thing saying that it's mixed. And it's like, what if they grab the wrong one? I can't tell you how many. I mean, over the past 7 years, I could. I think we went through about 6 pieces of stick equipment because guys put straight fuel in them
right.
and just totally wrecked them. And it's like, there's no point in getting it rebuilt. Just get another one. And hey, if it's a backpack blower, that's $600-700 right there. And that machine, I never got the ROI out of it because, hey, I just bought that 2 months ago. It hasn't been in the field long enough to get the ROI from it. And now I'm having to purchase another one, you know?
John, it's interesting. We talk about just fuel in general, and I won't go too far down a path of environmental piece. But what's very interesting to me is when we've done conversions with crews, the number one thing that comes back from the crew is that the conversations they're having at home, like, "Did you work today? What do you mean? Well, you don't smell like exhaust." You know, and also I've had guys say, "You know what? I haven't taken an ibuprofen when I got home in 3 weeks." "Well, why is that?" "I used to go home with a headache." and it was because of vibration and fumes. It's really interesting to think about if you really care about your employees, their environment. And when I mean their environment, that 2 foot around them,
Yeah.
taking care of their body. And then the other neat piece, I was having a conversation with a golf course superintendent in California last week, and then I had one in Charlotte. So opposite sides of the country, the exact same conversation that they're excited about for our robotics is they said no hydraulic fluid and no hydraulic spills. He says when your unit stops working for whatever reason, if you have a catastrophic failure of a wheel motor, it just stops. If I have a catastrophic wheel motor failure on a fairway unit or a, God forbid, a greens mower, he said, I'm replacing sod
Mm-hmm.
and I'm in massive casualty mode. Like I've got to shut a green down. I've got to put a temporary green up. I may have to stop play on one of my holes to go fix this one piece. He said, I am so excited that if I lose a piece of equipment with y'all, it's literally probably a little bit of electrical failure and I'm going to put a new wheel motor on it. He said, or I've hit something that it just didn't need to hit, and who knows what it is. He said, with a mower, he said, I'm losing hydraulic fluid. Even if they say it's safe for the environment, it's probably going to cause damage to my grass.
Mm-hmm.
And just because of the oil sheen and something else, he said, so he said, I am super excited. And again, I say that was in far left coast California, and then the southern United States of Charlotte, North Carolina. The exact same conversation of why they're looking at us. They're not looking to reduce labor. They are looking to reallocate labor, but they were more concerned about pace of play and quality of play and not having to stop play for something that they would not see until 2 or 3 days later. You may not see a hydraulic leak for 3 or 4 days. And
Right.
that means you mowed for 4 days until you saw it on hole number 2. And now you're on hole 18 in the rotation 3 days later. And what's happened? He
Yeah.
said, these are the things that is my real life, and I am so excited about. So that's something else, a different thing you can have a conversation with your customers is like no fluids. Like literally, there's no gas spills on your property with us. There's no chance of catastrophic failure on your property with us. We're going to roll up and we're going to roll out, and you'll never notice we're there. It's almost like camping when it's no trace left behind, right?
Right.
That's kind of a Kress um, mantra now is that we can roll up and there's really no trace. We're
Yeah.
gone.
It's funny, just to touch back on the gas smell. My daughter, she told me that one time. She's like, "Oh, I know you work today," and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you smell like fuel," and I'm like, "I didn't even." I'm like, "Oh, I know why." I was standing in front of the exhaust because I was adjusting some things on the motor, and I'm like, "Man, I never even. I'm so used to it, I don't even notice." But, yeah, you bring up a great point about just even when they're breathing things in. I know when I used to do a lot of bush trimming, I hated it because the unit I was using was it wasn't a pole one. It wasn't a pole trimmer, which you guys have. You have
Mhm.
basically every kind of trimmer you could want as far as hedge trimmers. But when you've got that unit and you're working it, it's right in your face. The exhaust is right there, and you got to turn to get the the bushes trimmed properly, and it's blowing right in your face. And I would get severe headaches like just a couple hours into it. And I'm like, man, I hate this. And that's why I stopped doing it. It was because the effect it was having on me. And I know I don't care. Bring it to me.
Not to
Guys,
mention the vibration and whatever
yeah.
else. Yeah.
Guys look, oh, you're going to hit it with your purse. I'm like, look, I don't care anymore. Like I would, the vibration wasn't so big for me, but it was more of the fumes hitting me and making me, get a headache and everything. And it's like, I actually stopped doing that service and offering it. And it was a very profitable service. But I said, look, I'm not going to, I could hire somebody to do it. But at the same time, I don't want them to go through that same thing. If this was available to me, like say 7 years ago, and the dependability and the battery life and all that stuff was up to par, I would have switched over back then. But I know you guys took your time and to make sure you had it right. It took you like 10 years with this battery technology that you have with the Kress commercial equipment. So, but anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but just, yeah, moving forward, it just, again, like you said, having that effect on people, the from coming home from work, they're actually feeling better. They don't feel sick. That helps people stick around longer too. They're going to stay in your company because you're watching out for their health. And then second, like, you're talking about all of our machines, that have the hydraulics and stuff, and you don't know that it's leaking, and then it could damage the turf. That's another huge thing with the electric. There's nothing like that. It,
Right.
like, I mean, the only thing that I could see is, with the spin trimmer, you would still grease the head because it's a spinning, rotating part. And some guys don't even do that now with their two strokes. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, there's a grease zerk you're supposed to keep with lithium grease to keep that lubricated. And then, the like the hedge trimmers and stuff, you want to keep them clean. You want to keep them sharp, just like you would with the two stroke stuff. But other than that, I mean, you don't have the oil, you don't have the fluids that are going to be dripping.
No.
And again, we're going to be ninjas. We're going to be able to come in and out. And you were talking about, talking with your clients. It's like, yeah, you could literally have a conversation with your clients while your guys are running around you, spin trimming. And even if they're using the 21-inch mowers, which are really nice mowers,
Right.
by the way, those those are actually really nice. I don't use 21-inch mowers, but if I were, the Kress model, the Kress commercial ones are really badass. I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
that.
I tell you, I actually turn my robotic mower off a couple of days a month so I can get a little bit of height on my grass, and I go out and cut with my 21-inch walk behind, so I can get some fresh clippings for my compost in my gardens and stuff like that. But phenomenal unit, vacuum wise, bagging
Yeah,
wise, mulching wise. I don't do a lot of mulching again because I just want to get a little bit of grass clippings for my compost. But man, phenomenal unit, and auto compensation for heavy load. Man, it's amazing unit. But
yeah.
but very rarely. It's probably more for exercise and compost than I do anything with you. But I probably should be pushing on my yard. I've gotten a little lazy since 2007 watching mowers mow, but man, it's
Sure.
cool technology.
No, Lee, I think I agree. It's everything that has come out of the Crest camp. I mean, has just been incredibly impressive. And I'm still a gearhead. I love turning wrenches. I still love power. Uh, but when it comes to this, really when, like, in regards to the podcast here, I want to make sure people are profitable. And that the whole Crest lineup, the commercial lineup, when you outfit your crew with that stuff, it's like almost a no-brainer. Some guys look at the price tag and they're like, oh, and I'm like, it's not that bad. It's not
That
bad.
they're already making a more expensive payment every day. It's just to Citgo or Exxon or whoever else, right? Their payment's already being made. If they look at their budget, the payment is already there and then some.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Most people in our industry, they aren't looking at their business at, not a microscopic level. It's not even nuts and bolts. Like, it could be even further away from that, they're not even looking that close at their business actual expenses every day. They're looking at it maybe per quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, honestly, are looking at it as a whole season. They're not even, there's so many guys that I help with my coaching, with the budgets, break evens, and bottom lines is a program that I do with people. And they never look at what their actual operational costs are. So they don't really have an idea. And then if you compare the expense of traditional equipment versus what Kress is offering right now, it's literally a no-brainer. And that's something that I want to do for you guys, is actually do a whiteboard Wednesday to where we
Oh, that's awesome.
get together. And when I got back home from the Charlotte trip there, I went back to my board and I started putting in my numbers instead of it just being that, quick flash, like, okay, hey, wait, I proof of concept is what we called it. It's just like, yeah, I have a whole database of things that I could refer to. but I just did the down and dirty version for you guys at HQ there that day. But moving forward, I'm like, yeah, I really would love to just sit down with you guys, go over something so that people could really see apples to apples, like what it's really going to cost them. And I know they're going to be floored. I know they're going to be shocked because it's just not, it's going to blow their minds, like how much it actually going to save them.
Sure.
So, but anything, I just realized, man, time flew by. We are.
Hey, I told you 3 hours and some minutes here. We're still 2 hours short, but
We're still 2 hours short, but
it's like
just
no,
time flies by
it's
quick.
great. I mean, we had great conversations in Charlotte. I appreciate those conversations for sure. And thanks for this as well,
Mhm.
because it again, one day when I get a real job, I'll let you know. But I get to do stuff like this every single day. And what's really cool, and in the years when I was a territory salesman calling on independent dealers, to national accounts, to doing what I'm doing now, the number one piece that drives me every single day is I get to make a difference in people's lives. Right? I get to, from a dealer standpoint, I get to show them how great a brand are that I represent, and what it can do for them and what it can do in the community. And those are the things. And so as I think about as a landscaper, I've got to know that the brands that I'm doing, that the dealer makes money on, right? And I need it to be profitable for the dealer. And then if we can also at the same time be equally as profitable for the landscaper, then all of a sudden the landscaper is investing not only in a brand but the local dealer that is able to provide the assets into the community. So when he comes and says, "Hey, will you sponsor my little league team?" He's got a brand that's standing behind him that he's making money on, that in turn the landscaper is also making great money on and saving money as well, right? So these are the things I get to do every single day, is to make a difference in a dealer's life, make a difference in a landscaper's life. And when you get to see that, remember the old cartoons where the light bulb went off over the guy's
Yes.
head? I've had more light bulb moments with Kress than I've had with any brand I've ever worked with. And it's really cool to be on a job site with a landscaper and him to say, "I get it. And this is amazing. Where do I buy it from?" Right? Go on a golf course, a sports field manager, a hospital grounds maintenance person, a school system. I'm working with a school system now that's going to convert 50 schools over to us, because why? The teachers complain that the equipment's too noisy and they're messing up testing scores. Right?
Yeah.
Their kids are distracted. Little things like that you wouldn't think that you get to be a part of to make a difference in. And those are the things that drive me every single day, and great to be associated with a company like Kress. And thank you for valuing what you do daily, because you get to make choices every single day and support brands that you feel like can make a difference. And thank you for being here for us.
Oh, I thank you. I appreciate the kind words there. It's just amazing, like you mentioned, like it's amazing how some of this technology has a butterfly effect that you never thought it would. That ripple effect that you're talking about, doing, being able to maintain a school while the kids are in session without distracting them. Even with when you're out there with the blowers and the spin trimmers to do the detail work, you are still incredibly quiet. You are way. It sounds like the blowers sound like they're far away and they're right next to the window.
Right.
Think about the change in our entire society in the past 3-4 years, because more people are working from home and all these things. If I had, like, this has happened to me before, I've tried recording at the office or tried recording at home, and the neighbors are running their mowers or whatever, and it's like, I never really thought about that. It's like, okay, I got to soundproof my room a little bit better, or utilize the new technology. And
Right.
it's like, I don't even know they're there, and it didn't cost me any extra, soundproofing. I didn't have to put up any more walls or anything like that. But yeah, it's an amazing thing. I really, it's in just a short amount of time that I've known about Kress and then learned about Kress, and the more I learn about the company, it's just a win-win-win all the way around. And I highly encourage anybody that's listening to this, don't just take my word for it. You guys are probably like, oh, Payjack turned into a fanboy. Look at him wearing the hat and everything. He's just coddling these. I would not be here talking about this as passionately as I am unless I truly believed in this equipment. I have a feeling it's going to be there. It doesn't matter what you think. Oh, it's going to be, it's going to be there. This is the direction we have to go. Okay. We used to, way back in the day, people used to go out and hunt whales to get the whale oil to put in the lamps, the street lamps outside. Okay. And then they came up with natural gas and they piped natural gas through these things and it did the same thing. And now we have electric lights. So the
Right.
gas is disappeared. It became safer. Everything. It's like progression, right? You know, this is kind of the same thing. I still love motors. I still love engines. But I think in certain circumstances, Kress has really dialed in and they have found the solution with their battery packs. It will give you the power that you need to do the work that you do all day long. And I think the only thing I could do is just really emphasize, get out there, go to Kress.com, find your local dealer, and set up that 10-day trial.
Yeah.
Once you get
And
in
if
your hands, you'll be fine.
and if they're not a Crest dealer, say I'm getting ready to buy.
Yeah.
I would like to buy from you. If you'd like to keep me as a customer, I would probably suggest you call Crest as well. Yeah, I mean it's 100%, right?
As a
Uh,
matter of fact, I was speaking with Rain, she and saying like our local dealer, I am trying to have a conversation with him so that he picks up Kress because one, it's going to be easier for me to get stuff, and then second, it's actually going to fill a little hole, like because you got dealers over here and dealers over here, and you got this little gap right here, and I'm like, you'd be perfect, and you would be killing it.
Right, 100%. Yeah, we need it. In about 18 months now, a little less than 2 years, we've gone from zero sales, zero dealers, zero employees, zero engagement to where we are today, cresting 5, 6, 700 dealers. We're growing every single day, antenna network going wide open across the nation. Just the engagement, you know, no one else has done what we've done in this amount of time that we've done it. And man, what a cool place to be. What a cool thing to be a part of in the industry. It has been a blast. You've been at GIE or Equip every single time that we're there, and it's been a buzz. And I'll go ahead and tell you, it's going to be a buzz again this year because we got some amazing things coming down the pipe. And I'll kind of leave it at that. But if you've been there and you've seen what we've done the last 2 years, you better tie your shoestrings on and tighten your belt because it's going to be a blast again.
I can't wait for it. And if you're going to be going to Equip anyway. It's the Super Bowl of all landscaping shows. So why don't if you come and visit me, I'll stop by the Kress booth. I'm going to be doing a lot of things, but make sure you get your tickets now because you could use promo code Payjack. You can get those tickets for 50% off. They're not going to be any cheaper than
Like
that.
12.50 or something
It's
right
12,
now. Something
yeah, right now.
crazy.
You buy them before May 31st, right? And you're going to get them use promo code Payjack and you'll get them for $12.50. They're $125 tickets. You're not going to get them any. Don't wait. And then make sure when you go, check out the Kress booth. And I know I'm going to be there. I'll post it when the time gets a little bit closer, but I definitely am going to be stopping by the Kress booth just to say hi and say hi to everybody that's listening. But Lee, I tell you what, I know we could probably go on for another 2 hours easily, but I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today and to really help. I feel like there's such a there's so much potential out there for these companies to turn that profit because we are in a weird place right now. Prices keep going up and up and up. And instead of like trying to just always increase our pricing, I find that when you could find something that's so efficient and it's actually saving you money, it's a no-brainer. And all that people need to know is where to get it and how, learn about this a little bit more and then just implement it. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for for helping me out with just getting that message out there because
Ain't no problem. And I'm excited that I'm gonna have to order you a shirt with my face on it soon. So this is gonna be great.
yeah, that'll be great. I'll trust me. I change up my shirts quite a bit. So like, the next time you see me, it's going to be I might have a surprise in store for you guys. So,
This is
but
awesome.
all right, Lee, please, just in parting words here, if you could just let's remind people where they could go. I'll put everything in the show notes. Any links that you want to put in there, I'll put that down in the show notes for you. But just if people need to reach out either to you or just to Kress, what's the best way to go?
Yeah, great question, and thanks for the lead in. First off, fairly active on social media, so at theleewithers.com or at theleewithers, excuse me. And so, look me up there. There's some content off and on. Tag me if you're doing anything with Kress. Love that. You'll see me there. Um, and as it relates to Kress.com, there's a dealer locator. Use that. There's also some info links on there if you're interested in either becoming a dealer or you can't find a dealer. There's that. Lee.withers@Kress.com. And that's my email, lee.withers@kress.com. Shoot me an email if I can help you with anything. You want to talk robots, I am your guy. If I'm not, I will find the person that can be your guy. And lastly, put all of that in there, but I promise you, this will not be time wasted. Give us 10 days. We can make a difference in your business. We can make a difference in your life, in your employee's life. But give us a shot, and I will promise you it will be amazing.
Thank you, Lee. I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate everyone for listening today. I know that we had a lot of gold nuggets in here, so make sure you grab those, get that gold dust, grab those gold nuggets, put those in your pocket, and then later on you can melt those down in the crucible of your mind to make sure that you are profitable in your business. So, and also if you're listening, thank you again for listening. Go ahead and leave us a review wherever you're at. And that just means the world to me because it lets me know that you're interested in this type of content and that we'll make more. So until next time, God bless, and we'll catch you on the next one.